video. So the video is a follow-on from last week, which is the Ransomes 16-inch Certes Mark 8. So we got as far as getting it nearly stripped last week and really run out of time. But we need to get into the roller. There's obviously some worn bushes, bearings in the rear roller. So I've not stripped one of these down. I've had a quick look at the parts list, and it's obviously all comes apart, but it's obviously covered in oil and grease. So we've just got to uncover the screws and clips that are holding it together. So I'm going to zoom you in, we'll get a bit closer, and then we'll see if we can get this two-piece roller apart, see what worn bits need replacing. So let's get you zoomed in. Right. So I think I'm going to prop you on the bench and move everything back. Hopefully you can see. My glasses on. So let's have a look. Good, I think you can see there. Let's get some gloves on because this is going to be, I think, a pretty dirty job. So let's clean that up with a wire brush a little. Nice sort of grease nipple wear. So we've obviously got 4 securing screws. I suppose this has probably been apart before. Right. Speed things up a bit. Let's get the gun. So, it looks like we've got nuts on the back of those. Okay. So I'm guessing cobwebs. Yeah, hopefully you can see. You can access some light in there from the cobwebs. Let's have a look. Down. Yeah, I think you can see them. There's nuts on the back of those, so at least we can access those I did have a look on the parts list, and according to the parts list, these rollers are the same left and right. If they are, I don't need to worry about muddling them up, but again, there's a Ransomes part number there. So I've got 186A. So yes, it looks like they're the same. I'm just taking the bolt out the other side. Let's get a rag. So I'll clean the shaft up a little bit, but we'll just see what these are. Let's poke that back in there. See what that looks like. There's a small bit of wear in the, we've got our nice bronze oil light bush. Looks like there's a little wear in there, but hopefully most of it is, I think it's an RL5 bearing in there. So we will get that apart and have a look. While we're there, let's just have a look at the other bush as well. That might just come off the shaft. Let's give it a little clean up. Right. So that feels quite good. So hopefully, as we said, most of the wear is going to be in the bearings. I think I'm just going to put that bush back on that end. Same with this one. And the screw. Right, let's just see if we can undo any of these. Weren't too tight. There's a nut. think what I'm going to do, because I don't know for sure whether these covers are handed, just before I take them off, I might just mark them, then at least I know. Right, we just put a little pin pop. Hopefully, there we go. Got something there. Got some, looks like a little probably another oil light. It's a spacer, shim, and then we've got some little metal shims. So it looks like what we've got here is these, bit like on push bikes, they're one of these sort of rocket do than these sprockets, freewheeling sprockets. Obviously you can see that it freewheels one way, and then if we turn it the other, it engages. So even though the rollers are not handed, obviously these sprockets will be. And I think they sort of unscrew. I think they either unscrew from the roller or they tap out. Okay, so I did have a quick look at the parts diagram. It wasn't that clear. So we're working in the dark a little bit. Rather hoping there was going to be a bearing first, but I think the wear is probably in the sprocket itself. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a tricky one. It's the cap from the back. See, right, okay. So there we have it. So it just sits in there. And obviously the screws from this cap hold it all in. There it is. So that's where most of the movement's coming from. It does feel like it's working quite well. So I'm going to have a think on that. Let's get the other side apart. I guess it's the same deal. We've got this sort of slightly different cover on there. So clean that up. Years of grime. Just about see the screws. So I think what I'll do with this one is, again, I'm going to mark this so I know this goes with this roller. I think probably I'm going to do 2 little dots on this one. And then we know. Let's get a better, something with a slightly better point. So, let's see how willing these are. Those with that roller. The only trouble is doing rollers, they're always greasy, awful jobs. Really grind in there. Here's another one, I think. I think I really need the impact. It's there's not much holding the nut on. So 1, 2, 3. I think that should be okay. Let's see if we can get that off. So it's a slightly different thing, but doing the same job. And then we've got our, it's really quite warm, that. So let's keep these rollers apart, and then hopefully that one, yeah, I think that's got a little retaining cover at the back. There we go. So let's have a look. Just give it a little tap. Here we are. So that's obviously where the movement's coming from. You can hear it even sounds like a push bike. But it's working all right. So I've got to have a think on that, because we certainly won't get one from Ransomes anymore, that's for sure. So let's just give you a little proper guided tour of the rollers. So obviously they need a really good clean up. And I think we can probably get away with reusing these oil light bushes, but it wouldn't be a problem to get one or two, as the case is. Going to have more of a problem finding some of these sprockets, or not quite sure what to do with those. But I'm going to have a think. I need to clean it all up, because it really is in a mess. I need to clean the shaft up, and then just see where there is on the shaft. It looks like there's a bit there where the sprocket sits on. There's probably going to be a bit on the other side. Yeah, a bit there as well. So I'll give the shaft a good clean off camera, try and clean those rollers up, degrease it all, and then obviously I've got to have a think on these sprockets, see what we can do with those. So since the last video, I've cleaned up some of the other parts. I managed to separate the roller from the side frame. Can't remember which side it was stuck in, but I just used a sort of needle punch, one of those type things, and it did actually come out all right. So yeah, I was just starting to rush. We were running out of time on the last video, but it didn't really cause any real problems. I was just able to tap on the shaft and it did come out. So the only other thing we've got to do, which we haven't done yet, is move it out of the way. We've still got the bearing housings on the end of the cutting cylinder. I know these can be tight, and it does cause quite a bit of bother sometimes. Yeah, they're both slightly different in their own way. This one's obviously got a hole right the way through it, so the sprocket and the fixing nut. The other side is filled in. So what we're going to try and do is just prise this off with some tyre levers. really are quite tight, but it has moved a little. Right underneath it then. So obviously they're just pressed on there, nothing else holding it. And we've got our, we'll knock the cap off in a bit, we've got our bearing in there, probably an RL5. Silver lining, there might be a little felt seal washer in there as well. So we'll see if we can get the other side off as well. Just take our nut, sprocket, bush. This side, if I couldn't get this off with tyre levers, you probably could use a little two-legged puller and get that one off. But hopefully, with a pair of tyre levers, it will come off. Let's see what happens. See our bearing in there. Very, very similar, but one's got a filled in end. I might just put the spacer nut, sprocket and nut. Okay, so what we could do is we could have a look at these and just see what these are like. Just going to clean up. Sort of hoping that the bearing in these are the worn part and not the housing itself, but we'll know once we go to knock the bearing out. If it drops out easily, we know the housings are worn. So I think what we'll do, let's take this, we will take you over to the vise because we're going to need to give it some stick. Let's go over here. Have a look. So these caps are just, they are just hammered on, so I'm just going to try and hammer that off. Sort of the same setup with a lot of the Ransomes, the Marquis, the Auto Certes. There we are. So, you can see that's a felt seal. Then there is normally a washer, which there is there. And we can see our very, very, very grubby, bunged up bearing. Well, there's a circlip holding it, but I don't think there is. You can't see a circlip, it's literally a hammer out job. So let's hammer that out. Nice, that one's a fairly tight fit in there, so I'm fairly sure most of the wear is in the bearing. Let's do the other one. Should be the same deal, the cap, grubby looking felt seal, thin washer. same very awful looking bearing. So, looks like we've got on that side, I don't know if you can see, there's a retaining clip. There we are. So we'll obviously clean that up, try and reuse that if we can. Right, now hopefully the bearing will knock out of that one as well. Which in fact we're not going to be able to knock it out because it's got nothing to go against. So, yeah, the choices we've got, we can do two things probably. You can get like a slide hammer. I've got one, we'll try it. If you don't have one, what you could do, and you won't really do any harm at all, try and mark where the sort of outer bearing is, and you could probably drill maybe a little hole on the outer and get a little punch and drift it out. But ideally, if you've got a slide hammer, you can use that and hopefully get it out, and that's what we'll try. I've got one, so if I don't have to drill a hole, I won't. So let's get that. So I'm sure you've seen them, this type thing. Put it in the bearing, spread it. I'm going to tighten those two up. Sometimes these can be really tight, so it's either going to come out quite easily or it's going to put up a fight. Right, I think I'll just put it in the vise a bit better. There we are. That one came out all right. Yeah, but you could do the drill hole thing. I've done it before and it works quite well, and nobody's going to see it. It'll be two tiny little holes, and if you do it obviously just on the outer of the race, you're not likely to get any dirt in there anyway, but that's another way of doing it. So I think I'll keep all those bits together. And let's go back over. Good. So there's a lot of cleaning up to do, degreasing. And I think now you can see the bearings, which is probably RL5 that's in the roller. We'll replace those two either side, the cutting cylinder bearings, and I'm gonna have a think on these rocket sprocket type things, whether I can do anything with them, or yeah, I'm not sure. I have to have a think. Anyway, so I've got some cleaning up to do between now and the next video. So that's going to keep me very busy. Good. So, I think we're going to call it a day on that. I can't do too much more. You don't want to see me cleaning, it's a horrible job anyway. What I'll probably do is probably get some, I've got some gunk, and let them soak, and then some of these bits I'll just wash them off with the pressure washer. It'll come off much easier once they've been soaked. And again, the rollers as well. Got to clean the roller shaft up. So that's going to be a job for probably midweek. So anyway, just a slight amendment. I think last video I said that these Mark 8s, and I think it was some of the other marks anyway, I think I said it was they did size in 14 and 16. Since then, obviously, looking at the owner's manual, they do actually say they do an 18-inch version. It's not one I've seen before, so they must be quite unusual. Most of them, the Certes, hand Certes I've seen, most of them seem to be a 16-inch. It seems to be a popular size. I've seen 14s, but 16 seems to be the common size. Could be for one of many reasons, price. Maybe they were just a bit easier to use, better across the ground. But it does seem that the 16 is a very popular one. But yeah, they did do an 18, so 14, 16 and 18. So if you've got an 18-inch one, then you've probably got a fairly unusual machine. I haven't seen one before, so like I say, most of the ones I've seen are 14 and 16. So there you go. I've got a stinking cold. I'm going to wrap the video up. I've got plenty to do between the next video. I hope you enjoyed it, and any comments, most welcome. Thank you for watching.